Welcome, everyone, to the Union Federation podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. We discuss both Star Trek and the Orville. I'll be your captain. My name is Kevin, and this is Union Federation episode 229. We are discussing the Star Trek Q episodes here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And we've got all 12 episodes that we're going to be discussing. We'll get into that a little bit later. But we got a really good crew with us here. And of course, this is a Fandom Podcast Network. These episodes can be found there as well as on the BQN network. And if you're watching the YouTube channel there, appreciate you guys. Also, if you're watching, please put some comments in the chat. We love to share your thoughts and challenge us with some questions too. That'd be fun. But yeah, hit the QR code. That'll take you to our website there. Let's introduce our crew here at the Union Federation. First of all, let's bring the Queen, the Borg Queen of the BQN. Let's welcome, first of all, Counselor Miss Amy Nelson. What's going on?
Well, doing great. I don't know if anyone's wondered BQN Borg Queen Nelson.
Network. Oh,
What?
Nelson, Borg Queen Nelson. I like that.
I'm just saying.
That's what you have to say so you don't get sued.
That's right.
I like that. It's good. Well, let's please also welcome our Oracle, our science officer, otherwise known as Miss Smarty Pants. Let's get a look. Haley. I just called you Miss Smarty Pants.
I know you did. I loved it.
Welcome. How
I think
are
I
you?
did get teased that sometimes when I was in school, in grade school. So I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing great. Great. We're excited. We got some more crew members bringing here. Just want to give a shout out to Joel. He says, hello, everyone. Welcome, Joel. Appreciate you
Joel.
very much. Yes.
Yay.
All right. Well, let's welcome one of my oldest friends and nerds. Got me into podcasting and also a big Star Trek fan. Let's welcome Mr. Robert Babs. What's going on, sir? How are you?
Hey. How's it going?
Welcome back.
Yes. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. All right. We got one more special guest here with us. Is Gary. Gary, what's going on? First of all, showcase your shirt here on YouTube. This thing is pretty cool. Look at that thing. Classic Star Trek crew right there. That is fantastic. I love that.
I'm so glad to be back again this week. Kevin, that means that you got my check.
Yes.
And mug.
I'm really excited.
Definitely, yeah, I appreciate that. I love little kick ups. So yeah, Amy, where's yours? I'm just saying. Come on. Guys, please check our backlog of Union Fed shows. We last year we did a wonderful TNG run there where we talked about all of the 2-part episodes. So make sure you check that out. We also recently discussed Orville. Yeah, what's up?
Is that the "There Are 4" shot of
There
Picard?
are
Right
4 lights. Yes, there is. Yes, we're dead. Yeah, that was a good one right there. We also discussed all of the main crew members of the Orville, our 10-episode limited series there. That was a lot of fun. And the last episode included a lot of the guest stars and Star Trek alumni in front of the camera and behind the camera. We also, of course, did our review on Star Trek Section 31. We also celebrated the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks. And we recently wrapped up Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. Right now, though, we are talking about the Q Fan Collective. And for those of you that maybe have gotten it, this is this DVD thing that we have right here. And it has inspired this podcast right here. And this covers all of the Star Trek all of the Q episodes from TNG, the 1 DS9, and the 3 Voyager episodes, all 12 episodes of the de Lancie run there. So that is what inspired this podcast here. And we also have upcoming episodes you haven't seen. I got art for there, so we got a lot to cover. And I want to give a shout out to my good friend, Joe Caroni. He did this wonderful Q portrait over here. Check out joecaroni.com. He's also a big Star Wars fan as well. He does a lot of great art, some comic art you may recognize as well. He's been commissioned for. Wonderful guy, too. Make sure you check out his stuff. Now, before we go any further here, before I tease this here, Gary, I want to actually showcase something that you brought to the table here, Robert. I think it's important because it definitely is fitting of what we're talking about here. And give us the quick story on how you achieved this thing.
Oh yeah. So this is my signed Q card, John de Lancie Encounter Farpoint card. So when I was a kid, there was a Star Trek convention. This was like I was 9 or 10. So 89 or 90, there was a convention in Greensboro, and he was there signing autographs. And I was really little, so the line had not yet become clear between this is an actor and the character. He was Q to me. So I was petrified going up to get this autograph.
A little intimidating.
Yeah, and you know, it was I bought this card to get the autograph because he was there. And I just remember him saying I pronounced his last name right.
That's
and
awesome.
I was just like, bye.
That's awesome.
I mean,
I would have been terrified too at that age. You know, like it's like meeting Darth Vader. It's
I mean, you gotta think about it. He's a charismatic man. There's no doubt.
That's awesome.
Extremely charismatic. Like in D&D, his charisma is a 10 with a 100 modifier. Like he plus 100 modifier. So like you go up to this guy and you're 10 years old, and it's
it's exactly
yeah.
You know, it's
won't come out.
John de Lancie is great in person. I'm sure some of you guys have experienced that. So now I want to get to you, Gary. You brought something to my attention here because we recently celebrated what was the 38th anniversary of the original airing of TNG. And you came across this, you shared something, and I joined this Facebook group called Star Trek Comics Across Generations. And they were showcasing the first Next Generation comic book cover, because it was a limited series to celebrate the release of this TV series. And there's this great, of course, picture here of Picard and the crew at the Q trial. Tell me a little bit about how you found these guys and your thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, as I said last week, been a massive comics fan my whole life, and so naturally I adore Star Trek comics. And so I joined this group. It's great because like every day there's always like a different, cover or some anniversary of a particular issue that comes up on my feed. And all of a sudden, after our last podcast, these just started popping up. And they cover all different moments. Like there's some con moments from the series. There's what you have there. There's stuff from the movies like Into Darkness and stuff. And I think the artist, who I think is a great artist, just randomly captures moments from across the whole franchise, and they just keep coming up in the feed. And this was the first one that came up. And so this was like a day or two after our Farpoint thing. So I thought, I'm going to share that with Kevin, because it's kind of ironic that this just started popping up with this picture.
I was doing a feed scroll down that Facebook group, and there was some really cool comic art that I remember the covers for. I didn't get all of them and stuff, and so it's a great stroll down nostalgia lane. So if you guys have a chance, definitely check that out. Very, very cool. All right. Well, we're, like I mentioned, we're here talking about Q episodes of the Fan Collective. And if you want to get the history of Q discussion that we had, go back to the first episode that we did last week, where we talked about Encounter at Farpoint. We also had a little fun and called the Q Hotline. So that was a lot of fun. Make sure you check that out. But let's go ahead and get to our first away mission. All right. This is Star Trek Next Generation. We are discussing Hide and Q, the second episode here of Star Trek The Next Generation. And looking at Amy's reaction here, I don't think she has those notes up yet, because, of course, me being prepared, I put up several of the episode notes and stuff like that. So, Amy, are you by any chance caught up here to maybe do the Admiral's Log episode synopsis?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you so much.
This is Hide and Q, the second Q episode. It's in the it's in the first season, right? There, Amy. Yep.
Yes, season 1, episode 9, and you guys, this has an IMDb rating, I feel a little low, of 6.9 out of 10. Okay. But that's IMDb. So the omnipotent Q appears again on the bridge of the Enterprise D, still not convinced that humans are a race worth saving and wanting to test them yet again. This time he focuses on Commander Riker and sets out to prove that mankind will not do the right thing when the opportunity presents itself. To prove his point, he vests in Riker all of his powers, convinced that the old adage about absolute power corrupting absolutely will prove to be true. Riker is obviously tempted to play God, but his assumptions about giving people the opportunity to be whatever they want doesn't go over quite well. Picard knew that the experiment would fail and wins his wager with Q.
Awesome. We'll get into more first reactions of returning to this thing, but I did want to make a comment before I forget. You know how in the first season of your shows, they're still trying to find their way. They're also kind of experiencing, we're getting early phaser technology that changes, get the little tiny phaser, you get the little, was it the hand vacuum phaser? But the thing that I thought was really interesting was in the beginning of the episode, you see, they're rushing to give aid to this colony, and you see Picard, basically hail Beverly, and she's in one of the corridors, and she stops to click the communication thing on the wall instead of use her badge. I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if we'd ever seen that before going forward. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
I did notice that, and I thought, well, this is a follow-up, I guess, from the scene in the pilot where the ensign or whoever it was, before she gives Riker the eye, shows him how to do the wall directional things. And so I thought, well, maybe they were still, toying with the idea of having the communications tied into the wall.
Yeah. And we were talking about this before we went live. They still had the scants, little short skirts on some of the characters as well. And where do they hide the little tiny button phaser? Do they just kind of stick it in their waistband? Is it, because later on you see holsters for the more traditional phasers later on. I mean, where are they putting that? I'm just throwing that out there.
Velcro.
It's Velcro. That's all Velcro. Did they put it down the small of their back? I don't know. Just questions. So, guys, this is Hide and Q, our second episode, talking about the Q episodes here. But first of all, let's get into a little bit of trivia. And Haley, if you could go ahead and read the first one after we warp to it.
The removal of the character of Deanna Troi from this episode alongside 3 other episodes made Marina Sirtis believe at the time that she was about to be cut from the show. This is her first non-appearance. The revised final draft screenplay submitted only 3 days prior to filming featured Deanna Troi, which suggests that Sirtis' sudden unavailability was the reason for her non-appearance. Her lines were eventually cut from the episode or transferred to other characters, mostly Tasha Yar. And Picard's log entry explaining her absence, a trip home, was written for the beginning of the teaser.
I want to ask you about this, Amy, because I know you've met Marina several times. I think you guys are actually friends and text every now and then. But I remember her mentioning this. What do you recall of this?
She has spoken about this on the panels that I've been to, and it was very serious. I mean, you've got Gates that was having issue with her contract, and Tasha not getting very many lines. You've heard her say, all I was a pair of legs behind Captain Picard. That was what she felt. The women were not feeling very valued. And when you're already feeling that, and then to be not included in episodes, it was serious. And Marina has said, if it weren't for Tasha Yar leaving on her own accord, she felt that she was going to be the one being cut, and because of this.
I was wondering if it was a budget situation too. I was kind of curious about that, but yeah, that's interesting. Well, with that said, Amy, would you like to read the next bit of trivia here?
Well, director Cliff Bull remembered, quote, I like the episode, but it wasn't one of my favorites. But Bull praises John de Lancie for his performance and mentioned that he is an excellent actor, and he took him to Australia for a guest role in the short-lived TV reboot of Mission Impossible in the episode The Killer in 1988.
I vaguely remember this reboot, and I don't remember this particular episode, but yeah, there you go. You got John de Lancie being an assassin. So, yeah. All right. Why don't you go ahead and hit us with number 3 there, Haley?
Sure thing. This marks the first appearance of a female new style Klingon. Since the introduction of the now common ridged forehead design in the feature films, only male Klingons had been seen. The intention here seems to be that the forehead ridges of Klingon females run well up past their hairline, something abandoned in subsequent appearances of Klingon women. Guess I
They were
never
working
noticed
out
that.
they were working out the kinks on this. So yeah. Yeah. All right, I'll get the next one here, the final one here, which I thought was kind of interesting. And if you pull back and watch the episode, you can kind of see he's got the little like tights pants when he wears this outfit. The only episode in Star Trek series featuring Q in which Q does not appear in any scene wearing a Starfleet captain's uniform, apart from appearing in a Starfleet admiral's uniform at the beginning. He does wear his typical red uniform as a commander when talking to Riker on the planet, and a yellow one as lieutenant commander when mimicking Data. But you can kind of see those early admirals outfits. They had kind of like the long tunic, which kind of has a little dress look to it, and then like the tight pants. So yeah.
Well, that's what the dress uniforms will become later in the seasons. Anytime they have like a dignitary that comes aboard, and Picard, will comment on it that he feels like he's wearing a dress and tights.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes. All right, guys, let's get into the next segment here. Next away mission here. We have our first mission report here. Main discussion for Star Trek Next Generation Hide in Q, debuted in 1987. This is episode 229 of Union Federation. And so the first question I'd like to ask you guys is, was it like returning to this episode, Hide in Q? Your kind of first reactions after seeing it for a while, and also was there any subplots that stood out for you? Gary, I'm going to start with you, sir.
I actually really enjoyed this episode, and it's watching it right after the pilot was kind of enlightening. I'm going to leave some details out because it ties into what we're going to talk about in a later segment. But the cast is more comfortable with each other. The characters feel a little bit more familiar. I do have to say, though, and I'm not exaggerating, that it has taken, this aired, in 1987? Only just yesterday, after watching this episode, did I finally get the title of this episode. I've been puzzled for decades. What does that even mean? And I thought, he clues into games, it's hide and seek. Got it. I don't know why this took decades for me to figure that out, but I was very proud of myself. But I thought it's a great Q episode. I thought that it advances what we know about the continuum a little bit. I think it's a solid episode. And Amy, I do agree that IMDb score is too low.
I never really considered that.
What?
I'm today old, figuring that out right now. So there you go. All right, Robert, let's go with you. Let's get your initial thoughts on this. Anything stood out for you returning this episode? What subplots?
What stood out for me, I'm having trouble picking because two things stood out to me. So I guess I'll pick the one with a little more character depth. I think we find out a lot about LaForge's character in this episode because he is offered a complete reversal of his condition, and he has a line where he says the cost is too high. And so I think that tells you a lot about Geordi LaForge.
That's a good point. Yeah, excellent.
As a man, that his North Star as an officer in Starfleet, as a scientist, specifically engineering, and as a man.
Well said. Nice.
All summed up in that one statement: the cost is too high. And to say that when he's given a good, how long? 60 seconds to enjoy, long, if not longer, a couple of minutes to sit there and that's a scene that actually got me emotional. I got to admit, when I watched it, that's the one for me.
Right. Well said. It's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
I might get a little
I
teary.
cried. I got teared up. Especially when he last thing I'll say, especially is when he expressed how beautiful he thought Tasha was. He knew how beautiful she was. And that was like, oh man. Ugh.
All right, Haley, I know you're a big fan of Jordan, if you want to comment on that, but also give me your thoughts or any subplots that stood out for you in this episode.
Well, I completely agree with Robert. It's why I love Jordy. You know, he's given this opportunity and he doesn't want to take it. And we all know later on that he does. And they give him these really, really awesome eyes. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I just really love about his character. As for me, going back to this one, sometimes I swear these episodes, they get so muddled because they're, you know, something Q and you mix and match and you're like, okay, which one is this one again? I do remember this one, and I always remember thinking like, okay, they're down on this weird planet. The sky is green. Such a throwback to TOS, which is really fun. Not gonna lie. And
Yes.
you know, yeah, and Q just having his fun, right? And now last time we saw him, he wasn't really having fun. This is kind of the first time that he's really delving into this low-key mischievous, I'm just going to play some pranks and some tricks and have some fun because, you know, he turns around and he's pretending to be Data and Riker's thinking he's talking to Data. And so you kind of get to see that side that we continue to see with Q. Yes, he's still wanting to judge, but he's also just now he's just having fun for the fun's sake. And I like that, you know, it kind of ties into the B plot of this episode, you know, this cost and what is the cost of things. And if you could change it, what cost would you pay to have something change? You know, Riker's upset that, you know, I could have saved this little girl. I could have brought her back to life, but I didn't because, you know, I made this deal with you, Picard, Jean-Luc, as he calls him. And I really like that episode, this idea of this episode, because it kind of speaks into our free will and our choices. And if we had the opportunity and the choice to make everybody's lives better all of a sudden, you know, Data, I love his like, no, sir. Mm-hmm. Like, I know exactly what you're going to do. No, I don't want it. You know, and Wesley, yeah, he wants it, but then he's like, but I want to get there myself. I don't want to have it forced on me. And so this concept and this idea of free will, and do we choose to make these choices that will affect outcomes, and what is the cost of that in general? But then you really, really want something and you have to evaluate the cost of making a choice and making choices to get to that thing. And is it going to be worth it or not? It's really, really great.
Well said. Well said. Wow. Yeah. Amy, your thoughts. Good luck following that.
All right. So I do have thoughts and completely agree. Oh my gosh, of course. Put me after Haley. No, I would like to point out a little different subplot, the one with Worf, because you've got Geordi, whose eyesight, like that would be an amazing gift. But again, the cost is being too high. And like with Wesley, jumping over this growth period and missing part of life, like those are different than what Worf has offered. Worf has offered, I don't know, was he offered sex? Was he offered love? Either way, it's fake. Because you've got a Q manipulating another human being to react to Worf, where that's not happening with Wesley's choice. It's not happening with Geordi's choice. It's not another human being being forced to do something for them. And so with Worf, it's like, no, if I wanted that, I could go to the holodeck. Like, why are you giving me something that's fake? And I don't want to live in a fake world. And so I totally respect that about Worf. And he might have been tempted, but it's like, well, tempted with sex? He's a strapping young Klingon. He can get that anywhere. But love and intimacy. Maybe that's what he thought he was getting. But then again, it's like, it's not coming from a sincere, authentic place. So no, I don't want that. And kudos to Worf for figuring that out.
Well said. Well said. So, it's interesting. I'll talk more about some of the other topics when we get to it. The one thing that kind of stood out for me was actually the ending when the bet is won and you see the continuum start to pull Q back, and Q's like, no, wait. Now, we know that as a little tease, what happens in the next episode is when Q introduces the Federation and us as fans to the Borg and the ramifications for that. And so I think this is laying some groundwork for the episode that eventually follows that, where he loses his powers. So I think this is a nice little connective tissue. I don't know if that was done on purpose for this episode to kind of show that there's another power. Gary, what do you think?
Well, really quickly, great point. I didn't really get that connective tissue you're talking about. That's what I actually hoping watching us watching all these in a sequence. I'm sure we'll be able to see things like that I'd never considered. But I just want to quickly make one point, follow up about Troy. I know there's, as Amy said, like behind the scenes reasons why Marina Sirtis wasn't there. But I personally think that the dynamics of this particular story would have been completely thrown off had Troy been there to counsel Riker. You know what I mean? It's like what she could have said to him as he's going on this struggle.
Why are you making me think, Gary?
I'm sorry. I'll go to the penalty box, Kevin. But
well said.
No,
wow.
But because she could make an appeal to him that in a way that none of the others could, and so I think that the story works better with her not in it, because it would have been the progression would have had to be totally different with her there. Advising.
Yeah, because she's his conscious. She could speak to him without saying a word. That is an excellent.
Well, she's
point.
his Imzadi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a well said.
That's not nothing.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to the next mission report here. This is actually the thoughts on the main Q storyline throughout this episode and its impact on the Star Trek timeline. Specific to this episode, Q is not convinced that humans are a race worth saving. He gives Riker Q powers to prove a point. So I want you guys to get your thoughts on that too. And it just popped up in my brain. If Riker in previous episodes or movies, was there any reference? I feel like there was of when he had Q powers. Did he bring it up in a movie, a future TV series? Was there something kind of a funny offline? I felt like that might have been brought up, but I don't know. I'm not sure. If you can remember, let me know. But first off, give me your thoughts on the main Q plot line here, where we get to see one of the crew members receive some powers. And before I forget, too, that weird planet with the green background, they referred to that, if I remember correctly, that is Planet Hell, because they would always switch that around to whatever planet they went to. And I thought
it's a pocket dimension that Q uses, right?
Well, Robert, let's start with you, sir. What is your thoughts on the main Q storyline here?
So what's interesting here is this all resting on Riker, and I want you all tell me, did I interpret this scene right? When Q and Picard are first talking, and Q mentions that it's going to be Riker, and Picard says, Riker, oh, good. To me, it seemed like there was an agreement made in that scene, and that Picard could have said, no, we're not making this deal. But he had full faith and trust that Riker would come through. So,
yeah, like he felt that he was going to be able to challenge Q because he's other than Picard and Riker, even though the rest of the crew are great, they're great people. I mean, you want to believe, everybody wants to believe they would be noble in this test, Yeah. That's a good point.
That's hard to say.
Amy, you got
very hard to say.
What you got?
Yeah, which is very interesting that Picard has that much trust that he is
Yes.
going to trust him when 8 episodes ago, he was picking up Riker for the first time to be his first officer and had never met him.
Yeah.
So that is a big jump. I agree.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, what are your thoughts on this Q subplot here?
Yeah, I really like it. I do remember that Riker mentions it in Q Who, which we'll talk next week. So I think that's maybe, Kevin, what you're thinking of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, well, Q was interested in me last time. So it is interesting that last episode we were discussing Encounter at Farpoint, like it was only Picard. There was no Riker that Q was, Riker was on the ship. It was Picard that Q was talking to. So it's interesting to have this flip to Riker. I'm not sure why, because I almost felt it would have been better for Picard to be it, just for that continuity with Q and Picard. But if you remember just this picture, if you're watching on YouTube, like last episode, I loved how Q's little snap a finger and the little effects, and then you've got Riker with this hand movement. What was this? I think it's so funny, and it's just contrast to how eloquent Q is with his hand motions. But I love this continuation of testing humanity, and I again feel that it's Q giving us, the crew, a chance to look at humanity and find the best of it. And I feel that every interaction we have with Q, it's always, how can humanity be better? And not taking shortcuts is this episode's lesson.
Well said. Gary, your thoughts on the main Q plot line here? Riker gets powers.
I think that we're given a lot of information, but the information that we're given seems to beg a lot of bigger questions. At the beginning, Q, when he's explaining what he's doing there, kind of seems actually surprised when the Continuum was became interested in the humans as a result of the Farpoint mission. And now Q has something to offer, but we're never really told directly that the offer he makes to Riker is on behalf of the Continuum. Like the Continuum wants to test Riker. For all we know, it could just be Q toying with the humans in an effort to maybe prove that his original point that humans aren't worthy. So at one point, somebody asked the question, well, how can the humans be useful to the Q? Which is like, well, is this one of the reasons for testing humanity, is because they want to judge humans' usefulness to the Continuum for some unknown reason? Mm-hmm. So he comes in almost kind of like the serpent in the garden in this episode, tempting Riker, with ultimate power.
Yes.
But we don't know that he's doing it on behalf of the Continuum. So I think the scene where he's talking with Riker about human advancement, where Riker says the Q fear human advancement. Yeah. They fear that humans will grow beyond the Q. So I was sitting there watching this. I was asking, is that because they want to be the single most powerful race, or because they see the humans as a threat to them? So we're given a lot of meat, but there's still all these huge questions about not only Q, but the Continuum itself that we don't know yet.
And then Gary, in that scene, Riker looks at Q and says, "What do you want?"
Yeah.
Like, what's your deal? What do you want from us? What is it you need? And that's an interesting retort to all of that.
Well said. Yeah. Haley, your thoughts on the main Q storyline here?
Yeah. So to Amy's point about the continuity, where it's always, at least for TNG, it's always Q and Picard. He knew Picard would not want the powers. Like, he already knew based off of his previous interactions. So picking Riker is the next best choice. And and because we didn't see that interaction between the two of them. So, he's not quite sure how Riker is going to exactly respond to being given ultimate powers. I really liked this idea. And again, I think it goes back to, if we're given something like this, what would we choose? And it really makes you think about your own choices, and would you choose to have this ultimate power and be this omnipotent being that can just do anything and everything for anybody? Or, would you take that free will away from others? Would you take away the option for them to work hard for something that they are really wanting, that achievement, that a sense of accomplishment from them? Would you take away and make something better that, they've been struggling with? But then again, that changes who they are as a person, and it affects any future choices and anything that they do from there going forward. And so I really like that idea of this episode specifically, because it really does make you think, like, what would you do in this situation and how would you handle it? And I like that, he chooses Riker, because I think he thinks that Riker will just be so excited and be so happy about it. And you really do get that sense up until the last little bit that Riker's like full on board of being this omnipotent being. He's been passed over. At this point, we know that he's been passed over for command, and, that puts a little sting in you sometimes, and you get resentful. And so he could just surpass everybody with this. And you really do kind of think that he's going to do it. And then he at the end realizes, no, this isn't right for me. This is going to affect my friendships with everybody. And so I really like that. And I think the Q, to your point, Gary, I do think the Q are afraid of humans. And I think so because we have free will. We have the choices to make. We are human, right? We have mortal being, but in Star Trek, they can live a long time. So they kind of have this thing where we have the abilities that they do, just not the magical powers to make things fake. But we also want to strive and learn and grow. And because they're so omnipotent, they don't have that. They know everything. They can see everything. So they don't have that same ability. And I think they're jealous and afraid of what human potential can be. And I think that's why we continuously see Q insert himself and cause problems.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. That's deep. Now I got to follow that. So, geez.
And really quick,
I'm sorry.
Just really quickly,
don't apologize, Haley. I love.
Did anybody just really quickly? Did anybody in the scene where after he calls him Jean-Luc, and then there's the one where he strides up to the turbo lift and then gets on? I was getting this like Gary Mitchell vibe. I was going, he's turning into Gary Mitchell.
Nice.
From
yes,
the pilot. It's like, wow, okay.
That's a good point. Joel in the chat says Q should have tempted Riker with the ability to play Nightbird.
Yes,
godlike powers. That's a deep cut, Joel. I love that because that's the song that Riker has trouble playing on the was it the trombone?
That's right.
I love when they taunt him. Play Nightbird.
Yes, Deanna. She knows him.
Nice call there, Joel. Appreciate that. Before we move on to the next main topic, I just want to mention, because you guys gave me a lot to think about. Again, well said. One of the things I like about this episode that I didn't really appreciate it before was the with being tempted to give everyone of the main crew something or do something for them, and then their own way of saying no kind of gives you some character development about the characters themselves, the ones that we're still getting ready, still learning about here in this first season. So I thought that was kind of a really cool thing. If we didn't know, a little bit more about how, I was actually kind of surprised how quickly Data was like, no, he didn't want any part of being human. And there was a part of me that was kind of wishing that we could have gotten a few seconds of it to see him do that. But I love the fact that Riker respected that, you know, and then he seemed to know Wesley's. Obviously, he's like, I'm going to do Wesley first because I really know him, you know, and then Wesley's like, nah, I want to kind of get there myself, you know. I want to have my first kiss, you know. I want to have my first this, want to first that. I don't want to go to straightly to a 27-year-old virgin, you know. So, yeah. Sorry, it just came to my mind. I had to say that. All right, so
that was the original. That was the original title for this episode.
Okay, so let's get into the next mission report here. This is mission report number 3 here. Is what is the best or most memorable Q moment specifically in this episode that stands out for you? Robert, start with you, buddy.
Well, you know, it's all throughout because I love the spread of pictures you have. There's 2 in particular that I want to zero in, or 3 I want to zero in on. The top 2 and the one on the bottom right. And you know, it annoys Picard to death that he's wearing this very he's wearing this French military uniform, and it means something to Picard. And then he's in this. Because
Picard's French.
Yeah, and then he's in this like French friar, you know, of the church robe, and Picard just like at that, and then that scene in particular, he's done. His reaction is
he pulls his cowl over his hood off. So
yeah, he's enough of this. So it stood out to me throughout, and I got to admit, I kind of chuckled, you know, a devilish kind of laugh, because it's just funny to see how Q gets under his skin, and you know he does it in the most subtle, passive aggressive way.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's point. Yeah, Gary, what are your memorable or what Q moments stand out for you in this episode?
Yes, 2. One is the comment about when Picard is kidding him about the French Army Marshal outfit, and Q says, "Well, he borrowed the images from Picard's mind, so we know now that the Q is telepathic." Right? That makes sense. Or he has powers similar to the Nexus, you know, where you can know what is like somebody's, you know, deepest thoughts and everything. So it hadn't been revealed before that the Q is telepathic. My favorite scene in this whole episode, so much so that after I played it through last night, I went back and immediately ran it again because I enjoyed the scene so much, is the confrontation scene in the captain's ready room. Already, for Q's second appearance, the tone of Picard's interactions with Q is already markedly different from what it was in the pilot. Picard isn't combative and defensive anymore. He's much more canny in dealing with Q. He's very much a strategist against Q now, making his point, sometimes, you know, pushing and kind of holding back and pushing and holding back. He doesn't try to plead with him. He knows what's going to work with Q and what won't. When he kind of spurred Q's anger with that Hamlet quote, it's hard to tell whether Picard did that because he passionately believes it or because he knew that it would provoke Q as much as it did, because Q immediately gets angry, throws the book. Good on Patrick Stewart for being able to catch that. I would have maybe either, if somebody had thrown a book like that to me really hard, I would have probably gone down to the floor. But that's a really interesting scene, and it's so well acted from both of them. You can see Q's anger rise as he just sits there, and taking Picard doing that Hamlet quote. That is far and away just really revelatory, not only for Picard, but for Q.
Well said. Okay, let's go to Amy. What are some of your moments of stood out regarding Q moments? What's your favorite?
So continuing off with what you said, I don't know if he really does, because he's so shocked that Riker's turning down this power. He's so shocked that Wesley says no. Like, in his mind, he's giving the best gifts. Why would you turn down the best gift? And then I also really like his super weird creativity with creating this world of hell. Is that what you called it? Like those weird things and the green sky. And like, I'm just really impressed with his creativity that he can just think of these things like that and then be so wrong.
Yeah, and those like weird animal like creature guys and stuff. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you know, he's I think he's done this before. Just saying. So yeah, yeah, a lot of really good. I love the when he first is tempting Riker there. If you're looking at the YouTube channel, it's one of the top left there, and he gives everyone forcibly a drink, and then there's that iconic Worf scene where Worf's making a theatrical moment of pouring it out, you know, and stuff. Yeah, so good stuff there. Okay, by the way, full discretion here, Amy. Thank you. Oh, hey, I'm sorry, Haley. I'll get to you in a second. I apologize. I got distracted about something that Amy said before. I was having the wrong ticker at the bottom of the video with the wrong episode number. So thank you for mentioning that, Amy. So now I got the right one there. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted there, but I'm trying to do air traffic controlling here. So
yes,
Haley, let's get to you. What is your favorite Q moment here?
I love the end when, Picard is telling him you've lost again, essentially. And, I'm pretty sure that the Continuum is not going to be happy with you for this deal that you made, that you have to leave us alone now. And, the Q kind of, and he looks up and he's panicking because, later on we learn, he does lose his powers in the one episode and they make him human, which is fantastic. I'm so excited to talk about that one. And then in Picard, we see him being tossed aside. And so it's really interesting to kind of see this dynamic where it makes you wonder what other Q would be like. Are they all tricksters? Are they all, this kind of personality that we get? And you think about that, and then are they different? And what are the other ones like? And that's something I always thought of when I was growing up watching all these episodes, just like, well, what are other Q like? If he's getting in trouble, and obviously, there's a hierarchy in the Q continuum, but I love when they take him out and he's screaming. So that's fantastic. And like Gary says, I love the scene in the captain's ready room when they're quoting back to each other. This is something that I think would be so fantastic to see, is to have Patrick Stewart and John de Lancie perform on stage in like Hamlet or something together. Like, I'm surprised that they haven't. I think that's ridiculous, and somebody needs to remedy that, because I think because of this and all these interactions that we get, it would be fantastic to see these two really well-versed actors, do something like that with each other on stage.
You reminded me of something that I wanted to tell people, and I have them on audio. They did a similar thing where they had Q go back and forth with Spock, and they both had Nimoy and John de Lancie, and I remember they recorded it live at some university, and there was two things, and it was basically a debate between them. And it was really cool. If you search for them, you can find them on audio. There might be a video somewhere. I don't know, but I have them. But I was just like, we need that. You're right, Haley. We needed that with like Picard, in character, of course, with Q. And that would have been kind of fun and do that. So, yeah, so check that out. All right, guys. Well, let's in the next mission report. This is the fourth one here. This is where if you have something you want to bring to the table, feel free. But I'm going to get us going here because I want to see what you guys say here. So the final mission report that I have here is what would you have done in Riker's position with the Q powers during that scene on the Enterprise bridge? You could say that you were either in Riker's position, or if you want to have a little fun and saying, if someone gave you the powers of Q right now while we're doing this podcast, what would you do with us? Have a little fun with that. Does anyone want to jump on this? Okay. Oh, I love how quickly Amy was like, yeah, I do. All right, Amy, if you had Q powers right now, or if you were in that episode, what would you have done?
I would have downloaded and made me remember all the amazing Star Trek trivia that I just forget so frequently. Like, over on BQN, just a little plug, Trek Masters is going on, the trivia. Sunday, we had our trivia with Jim. And it's like, these are questions that I should know, but I can't remember. I'm like, all right, bam. All memory alpha in my head. That's all I want. And I want to be able to retrieve it. That's the critical point. So that's my Q power.
That's a good point. And I just want to mention, by the way, if you're watching the video here live, please let us know what you would do with Q powers in the chat. We'll showcase them. We want to know. I think right now I would I'll take us to Scotland or something, do a cool little trip. And, if you have any ailments, they're gone, that type of thing. But there's a little part of me that might be like Vash, which we'll get to later on, and just see what else is out there, and follow Q along and see what he's doing, and maybe try to keep him in check. There's a part of me that would want to do that. We'll get to that later in that episode. But Gary, what about you? What would you do with Q powers in that?
All right, I have a couple. One is just for me, and then one is for all of us.
Okay.
So the one that's just for me is because as passionate as I am about Star Trek, I'm also a huge Doctor Who fan. I would conjure up all of the missing episodes of that series, all of like the 100 missing episodes, and I would put them
Dan would really appreciate that, by the way.
Oh, I know. Dan would, he would.
Dan is our host of the Type 40 Doctor Who podcast on the network, and follow him on YouTube. And Gary's always in there, so check it out.
You know what I would do for us? I would take all of us back, and whoever we wanted to bring with us. I would take all of us back to the first big Star Trek convention in New York in the mid 70s, like 75, 76. It would only cost like $5, I think, to get in. But, we could probably do the whole weekend on like $20, and, that would be great. But
you have Q powers. You don't need money. Gary, come on now.
Well, yeah. Money. I would realize that after I got us there. But no, that would be fun, to have us all back there, all the, that would be really, as much as I've read about it and heard about it, what those conventions were like, I would just snap and bring us all back there and spend the weekend there at that convention.
I love that. That's great. Haley, if you had Q powers like Riker did, what would you have done in that scene, or what would you do right now with your Q powers? What would you do?
Well, I think, in that scene, just because of who I am, I wouldn't force anything on anybody. I'd ask them if they'd want it, honestly. Is there something that you want? And that you feel that you cannot achieve, because I don't want to take that accomplishment from anybody. So that would be the case. And I wouldn't do it with my eyes like this, like he does. Like that was even worse than the hand thing.
Wait, show me again. Show it again. Yeah. Creepy look face. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. As far as for us, like, I think it would be great to be able to, rather than sit here, we're all in respective different areas of the country, that we'd all be able to podcast together in a room and enjoy each other's company, rather than being, separated. So,
yes.
Yeah.
That is very sweet, Haley. Wow. God. Robert, good luck following that one.
Again,
me every time.
That's a catchphrase for this episode.
It's okay. It's not a competition. It's a collaboration.
Right.
Okay. Let's start with in the scene. Well, what pops out, and this is more of not so much an answer, but what really caught my eye in this episode was after Riker does the initial saving of the crew and they all appear on the bridge, and he shows up and the camera pans and he's all like,
yeah. He's very sure of himself.
It took that long for him to become drunk with power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's pretty proud of himself in that. That's at least what it looked like to me. So,
would you have taken a similar stance, or would you have gone like, I've seen this before and watching too much TV?
Where the dominoes start to fall is when he saves the crew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the answer to the problem is right there, because if you want to claim that you could handle it, you either save everybody or you save nobody.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
Because and even right there, you're starting to decide who lives and who dies. You're deciding morality, which is what Q is already in. He's already in that realm. Q decides based on what Q thinks. Yeah. And that's as constant as the wind. He's a flake. So I want to say that I would, from the get-go in the conversation, say no.
Yeah. It's definitely
it's the Sith question.
Yeah. Being tempted by the dark side. Yeah, definitely. So yeah.
The fun answer, the second part, I don't have a fun answer. I'm going to be kind of serious. I just don't think that there should be any children on this planet suffering with terminal illness, and I would snap it out of existence. It's ridiculous. All of them instantly disease free. Yeah.
Well said. Well
That's
said.
what I would.
Well, there's a part of me that, like, if I was on the bridge with Riker, and I don't know if I could follow that, Robert. Thank you very much.
Oh, please.
But there's a part of me that would just go, Joe, can you make me play like Eddie Van Halen on guitar? And then that's it. That's all I want.
Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's not going to change much, and just it might build my confidence, a little bit more. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So before we move on to our last mission report, which is our crew MVP, is there anything else you guys want to mention, bring to the table here? You guys have brought a lot to the table. It's been very impressive.
Is there lore behind the crystal ball with the 3 cobras?
Yeah, that's like in the beginning when he pops up and he's just this voice. That's a good question.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
He says later in the episode that Picard that he first appears, and I'd have to go back with subtitles on, but he first appeared to them on the bridge in this episode specifically as like this creature from some other planet that maybe they've been to, but we never really saw, or we didn't see a creature. But he says it's a creature that they know, and then he decided to become, and show a form of similar to human. So
gotcha. Yes, Gary.
The only thing that I want to add here is that I thought it was amusing that Wesley, 10 years on, looks absolutely nothing like Will Wheaton does 10 years or even 20 years later. I thought, okay, we'll go.
That's
the science fiction part of it.
And who is it that even says, way to go, Wes?
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Are you saying that's aged poorly?
Well, I think what's odd also is weird is that Tasha seems to be kind of coming on to Picard. What do you say? If you weren't the captain, it's like, that's like, okay.
And doesn't Q call that out? He replies on the tail of that. He's like, now.
Fraternizing with lower ranking, which is actually not allowed in the military. So.
That's right.
We all need to do audio commentaries on these episodes.
But remember what Picard said. He created a new standing order that you can cry in the penalty box.
That was a very charming line, but it's just kind of
good.
It would be fun, Kevin, to go off of your little saying there, to sit down and throw up, an episode, and I'll sit down, and we don't necessarily podcast in this format, but we just sit and be like, what the heck? Like, and just comment on it as we're watching it like that. Yeah. And if you listen, Wesley at 27, it's Will Riker. It is his voice that like they dubbed over,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh my gosh.
Oh, Will
like,
Wheaton's
it's
You know,
so
you know what
bad.
this is, Haley. You would be the science in Mystery Science Theater 3000 if you did that. So I'm
It
just
would
saying. So
be.
yeah. Well, let's get into the last mission report here. The Star Trek MVP. And what I want to know from you guys is which cast member stood out for you? You know, obviously you can, go to Q himself. Who stood out for you in this? What was that? And let's actually start with you, Haley.
So I'm gonna go with 2. My least favorite person is 27-year-old
27-year-old Wesley.
It's so bad. So bad.
By the way, Amy, this is catching on, the least favorite performance here. So it's a thing now. This is supposed to be the MVP, but it's MVP and least favorite. So
Yeah.
thank you. Go ahead, Haley.
Yeah, so definitely my least favorites. That scene was just so bad. You know, in this one, I'm giving it to Data. I really enjoy, you know, he doesn't have a lot of lines. He doesn't, you know, analyze, and he's not, you know, calling facts out or anything like that. But, you know, when they're given drinks, you know, he just kind of picks it up, looks at it, and is like, okay, you know, because I don't drink, I don't eat, I don't require nourishment. And then later, you know, immediately just that, no, like, no, sir, don't even. Like, I know what you're thinking. I know you well enough, despite, you know, us not being, you know, colleagues that long. No, just an immediate no. And I really like that.
Awesome. Well said. Gary, what about you? Who is your episode MVP or least MVP?
Absolutely, my MVP is Patrick Stewart. I thought he just rocked in this episode. I mean, as I said, from watching this so soon after rewatching Farpoint is kind of like night and day in terms of, you know, not only his ease, but all of his interactions with Q. It just shows that he's approaching it more as like a chess game with Q, kind of what do I say, what do I not say, and all of that. I think that the scene in the Ready Room, I think, is a fantastic scene. I mean, just the dynamics going on in that scene. Picard seeing what's work. If one thing doesn't work, he tries something else, and all of that. I love the scene where he's on the bridge alone, where he can't even do he tries to contact anybody else, and then he can't even do a log
captain's
report.
log. Yeah.
Okay, wait, hold on. Can I interrupt you real quick, Gary? Because
no.
I was going to say this earlier, and I forgot, and you reminded me. That scene where he's on the bridge alone reminded me of a moment, and I didn't get to do it because they wouldn't allow anyone to do it. If everyone remembers Star Trek Las Vegas at the Hilton, that lasted for about 10 something years, when you go through that whole thing there, it's an attraction you would pay money for, and there's like a little Star Trek museum you walk through. Then there was a Star Trek like Star Tours ride that was actually Riker, I believe, was the one that was giving the mission, and then you get to actually walk out on the Enterprise D bridge. And I know they rented it out for like weddings and stuff like that, but we didn't get to sit in the captain's chair. But that reminded me of that. What would you do if you were just hanging around on that bridge? But continue.
Oh no, I absolutely would. I'd absolutely go sit in the chair. I mean, come on, who wouldn't? Anybody who says they wouldn't is being a fibber.
I want to learn how to use
they're being a
LCARs.
fibber.
What was that, Robert?
I want to use learn how to use LCARs.
Yeah, right.
Real working LCARs term, like boom, and learn how to.
But no, that was all about Stewart. I just thought that he, and then at the toward the end, where he kind of lets Riker, he gives Riker enough rope to where he doesn't flinch when he's called Jean-Luc. When Q shows up at the end, he just kind of sits back in the chair and kind of watches the thing play out as he tempts all the people. Because at that point, Picard knows how it's going to play out. And the way that he just sits back kind of casually in the chair, watching it go on, I thought that he just was pitch perfect in this episode.
Well said. Amy, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Riker, actually. His character arc in this episode, you know, really, I think is relatable, because you are gonna get this power, and you're right, it's tempting, because there's so much suffering in the world, and there's so much that you could do to help yourself. There's so much you could do to, quote unquote, help your friends. And so we get to see him being tempted. We get to see him trying out these powers. And then we get to see the reality of it setting in. Cause yeah, it's, you need the time to think about it. Like, oh my gosh, unlimited power. Yeah, I think I could control it. Oh no, I can't. So that is, and it's just so relatable. And I think he did it very well.
Well said. What about you, Robert? Who is your show MVP?
Well, I'm going to have to harmonize and say it was Geordie LaForge. I think of all the people that were, even though Riker was handed God-like, the power of God, I think Geordie was really tested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine having never seen in your whole life and being able to see for 2 minutes and then being given a choice you have to make on the spot? I mean,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give him MVP for that. Yeah.
Well said. Mine is also Riker. I feel like this was a good moment to learn more about him and him learning about his fellow crew members. And I felt that earlier in the episode when, the challenge was given and, Q and Picard are talking, and Picard's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to corrupt him. But then we were seeing moments of Riker being tempted and doing things, and it was I think it came together really, really well. And him being able to see how everyone was turning these down made him realize, like, yeah, this isn't good for me, and including Worf getting tempted by love, or was it something else? Who knows? It was an interesting thing for him to experience all of this. I mean, it would have been weird if someone said, sure, but that's not the crew that we have become to love here, on TNG. So well said, everybody. All right. Well, guys, this is the Union Federation podcast. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. All right, this is the Star Trek Q Fan Collective. Star Trek Q episodes from 87 to 2001, of course, covering the episodes from TNG, the one from Deep Space Nine, and the 3 from Star Trek Voyager. I want to kind of get you guys' final thoughts here, and also let me know how we can get a hold of you. Robert, let's start with you. Your final thoughts on this episode.
Best line of the show, Worf's response to Picard on the bridge when he turns and says, flim flam.
Well done.
Well, I lost it. I was like, oh yeah, that's hilarious. That's all I got.
And Robert can be found on future episodes here on the Fandom Podcast Network Union Federation. So yeah. Gary, what about you, sir? Your final thoughts and how can we get a hold of you?
I'm disappointed that none of us picked the Klingon woman as the MVP of the episode.
I was thinking about it, but I was afraid to say
it. You can find me on Discord as RetroDoc, Facebook as Gary Akers. My X account is right there, Gary A_retro, and you can find me also on FPM on Thursdays on Type 40 and on Saturdays on the Spacebook, also here on FPN.
Great. Well, of course, this is the Union Federation, and hit that QR code there if you're watching the video. And this is the Fandom Podcast Network and the BQN, and that goes right into you, Amy. You, of course, are the co-founder of the BQN. Give me your final thoughts and what is happening over on the BQN.
I really do enjoy this episode, especially because we had this amazing discussion about what it means to us in our lives and to the characters and their development. I still always get freaked out by the Planet of Hell and that stupid green background. It throws me out, but I I get over it
Right.
because it is a super fun and relatable episode, and we get to see, so much. So you can find me live Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. noon Pacific. Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and 5 p.m. in the UK, where we are doing our Star Trek morning show, I guess you will. It's called The View Screen. I'm on hiatus. All Good Things is on hiatus. So check us out there. BQN Podcasts on Instagram and Blue Sky is where you can find us. And you can find me in our Facebook group.
Of course, the Union Federation Facebook group. Yeah, please check that out. All right, Haley, give me your final thoughts on this episode, and then, of course, where we can find you.
Yeah. I think this episode is a great testament to, again, choices and outcomes and consequences, whether good or bad, and what you would do with those choices if you could have any choice in the world that you wanted. So great. And then you can find me. I'm on Blue Sky and Instagram at Trekkie01D. And then again, I'm always just there quiet. I'm like Q in our Facebook group. I'm just there and I pop out sometimes, but most of the time I'm just kind of there watching.
Great. That's great. All right. Anyway, first of all, my name is Kevin. You can find me on all the socials at Spartan_Phoenix or on Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix. Union Federation is on X, Instagram, and of course, please, as we mentioned earlier, please check out the Union Federation Facebook group too as well. And please keep joining us here on Monday nights for these Q episodes going forward live at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. And please join the chat as well. We'd love to showcase your chats and get your thoughts on there as well. I just want to say real quick, it was nice to see this episode right after watching the first episode. And, what I love about kind of picking and choosing the episodes, we're not like doing a rewatch on all of these. We're having fun with certain episodes. And Q was just one of those that we had to get to. And I like seeing, even though we're missing a lot of episodes with character development, I like seeing how they're reacting to Q going forward. And we're going to be getting some really fun stuff coming soon as well. And let me go ahead and tease that right now. The next episode, if you guys don't remember that we were talking to earlier, is Q Who. This is the one that we are introduced to the Borg.
Oh boy.
Exactly. So anyway, guys, this is, of course, Union Federation episode 229 here on the Fandom Podcast Network and the BQN. I want to, first of all, thank Amy, Gary, Robert, and Haley. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all that. This is one of the things I like doing about this, because you guys are smarter than me and you bring up a lot of good points. So thank you very much. Anyway, thank you guys for watching live. So hold on, we got one last comment here. It says, thanks, Joel. Appreciate you. There you go. Thank you for checking in there. And
Yay, thank you, Joel.
I love the Nightbird reference. That was great. That was really, really cool. So as we always say here on the Union Federation, first of all, live long and prosper. And without a doubt, we are the weirdest ship in the fleet. We'll see you guys next week live here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Thank you guys. Have a good one.